Welcome to Partners in Practice podcast today. I'm Tanya Gover, and today I'm really excited to have Luke Michel join us. Today we're going to dive into what he's learned and share some really valuable tips with you on designing a future-proof ready clinic and some insights over his journey. I can't believe I'm saying this, over 20 years, you've worked as associate, you've brought in your early 20s as a partner, you sold to a large corporate, you've worked in corporate, you've been a vet director, you've worked as locum, and now you're starting your own startup practice. Welcome to the pod, Luke. Let's dive straight in.
Thank you.
So next Monday, you open the doors of your purpose-built design practice in Wollongong. Can I ask you, what inspired you to open a practice now in 2025 in your hometown?
I think it was a bit of a case of now or never. Like, it's something that I've always thought about. 12 months ago, sort of got to that point where I had been in the same role for a long period of time, and it was I had to make a bit of a decision about whether I wanted to stay there or not. And I could sense that I'd probably done that role for long enough. I found little things were starting to frustrate me a bit, and I thought, no, I think I just need to be at a point where I can make some more decisions for myself. So I didn't want to rush into anything, so I decided to locum for a bit just to sort of clear the head and decide what to do next. And then thought, yeah, I want to really have a go. I looked at buying existing practices, and it didn't work, because I didn't want to move. I do love it here in Wollongong, so the option that came up was to start from scratch. So that's where we are now.
Can I ask you then, thinking about that time you spent locuming,
Yep.
having that disconnect and break and seeing lots of different types of practices, what are some of the things that you took from that you would think about, oh, that's something I want to include in my practice or my team? And also, what are some of the things that you thought, okay, that's something I definitely don't want moving forward?
Yeah, there's lots of things learned across the way. I probably worked at 6 or 7 different places in the last 12 months. Some of the places I worked at hadn't had a vet for a while. It just highlighted that when you have a good team, you've really got to recognise those key people and reward them. Sometimes I might ask for a bit more than you think you want to pay them, but if they're asking for a few extra dollars an hour, and then the other option is they leave and you don't have a vet in the building for 2 months, I think you've really got to swallow your pride sometimes and go, okay, this is just what we need to do. I think communication's a big thing. Like, there was teams I worked in that didn't really know what the future held. I was always there as a stopgap measure to work for a few weeks. So they were all very grateful when I was there to help, but they didn't know what was going to happen after I left some of the places I worked at. So, and that uncertainty was tough for them, because they were deciding what they wanted to do long term. And so there were people that loved their job and very passionate about the profession, and just wanted that bit of certainty about what was going to happen later. So I think communicating to those teams where you're trying to go, I think, is just really important. So I think people want to be inspired and continue with it. It's a profession that you're in because you love it. You're not in it for the money. So you need to make sure you're helping them find their why and achieve what they want to achieve. I think it's really important.
So thinking about that, how are you going to bring that in, or what parts of that important, keeping the team updated, understanding the vision, how are you going to use that in your new practice?
I think that I've got to be humble and sort of realise what I'm good at, but more importantly, what I'm not good at, and make sure I find a team that complements that, so that they can do the stuff that I either don't enjoy or aren't particularly skilled at. It's not trying to sort of palm off the jobs you don't want to do. It's more about just sort of, okay, you enjoy doing that, we'll make sure that we can provide that for you. I think that I've learned that there's enough clients for everyone, because a lot of the places I've worked at, it was very hard for clients to get in. I've seen that in a lot of areas. So, and working in lots of different places with different people, you realise how good that industry is. So just making sure you have good relationships with all the vets that are around you, because you're all fighting the same battles and trying to just do a good job. So not to see people around you as competition, just see them as part of the profession, and don't worry about clients going somewhere else. They're going to do that regardless. So just trying to make sure you just do the best job that you can, and yeah, just get on with all the people around you, because if you're all trying to do a good job and getting on, I think that's going to benefit everyone as a whole, I think. So sort of, yeah, certainly learned that in the last 12 months especially.
Thanks, Luke. So thinking about that then, and let's focus on your new practice, Coastal Vet Collective, that's opening. What are some of the non-negotiables if you think about the design? So for our listeners, giving some tips around, some of the things that were non-negotiable when you're setting up. So people may be looking at renovating their practices, or they may be looking at setting up the practice from scratch as you have. Share some of the non-negotiables, the design that were important for you moving into the practice.
So I think going back to what I was talking about, knowing your strengths, I'm definitely not handy, and don't have an eye for that sort of detail. So getting an external company in to help with that was important. We used Cyclo, and they were very helpful from start to finish. So that was good to have their help. And I had ideas of the way I wanted it to look, and they were able to go, well, that's not going to work, and here's the reasons why, and adjust around it. But the main things I wanted as non-negotiables, I think, was good. I wanted to build it, and like you said earlier, future-proof it, because I don't want to have to try and update it in five years' time. I'm 45 now, so I would hope that you've got 15, 20 years of good quality practice left. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do too much. Like, if everything goes well, do too much to it in that time. So the brief I gave them was, I wanted good quality, but sort of more timeless colours. I didn't want what was trendy now, because then in 5 years ago, what were we thinking back then? Thinking that looked good. I wanted to be something that would look good for a while. So and have good workflow. I really wanted a separate dog and cat waiting area, so that you see there's more and more anxious pets that come in, and I think anything we can do to help manage that is going to make life much easier for clients, and also for us when they're coming in. So I really wanted, because we had that space to be able to do that. I wanted to spot with to future-proof with things like lots of parking, so that if we do get busier, we've got plenty of options there for the clients to come in. So they were as far as the design goes, they were the main things that I and a big open treatment area. I've always liked working in big open areas out the back where the team can work well together. That was important to me as well. So lucky enough to find a big enough space to do all of that.
What does good workflow look like for you? When you think about design, or what are some of the things that you put in to help with that? You mentioned a large space. I'm imagining visibility, being able to communicate, being able to see, what people are doing, how patients are recovering, etc. But what does workflow or efficiency look like for you?
So the main things I sort of thought about, going to sort of end of life side of things. When people come out of that consult room, I really wanted them to be able to just easily move out without having to walk straight through the waiting room. So we've set up the room design that way, to have easy access from the front of house to the back of house. So one of the bigger hospitals I worked in, all the consult rooms are up one far end of the building, and the treatment area is up the other end. So you can be pretty oblivious to what's happening around you. So if it's all going to chaos, I think part of my role is to be able to come in and try and settle things down and help get things going. If you're up one end of the building, you can just be oblivious to what's going on. So I want to be able to hear what's happening out the back and have easy access to it. So the consult rooms sort of open up. They all have a door that opens into that treatment area, so it's pretty easy to get out the back there. So for me, that was an important part as far as the workflow goes.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose the other part that feeds into that is technology and utilising. It's 2025. And for listeners, this is probably showing my age a little bit. I actually met Luke when Luke did work experience, but in high school. And I had the privilege of working with Luke as a new graduate and see you shine. And I've known you for quite a long period of time. So our technology, if I think back to those days, I think we even had card systems back then, which is showing my age. What are some of the technology factors or things that you've incorporated in the practice to support and also think about future proofing?
Big one for me, something I sort of was passionate about for a while, was just putting solar panels on the roof. If you look at the big energy debate, it's okay, if the sun's not shining, you're not producing energy, but we're there during the day, and that's when we're using all of our power. So as it was a bit of a no-brainer with the maths of it all. And like, to put it in perspective, we had like a $350 a month electricity bill during the build, and it's now $40 a month now the panels are in. Like, it's,
Wow.
yep, we'll pay it off really quick. So
Mm.
a bit left field, but future proofing, and also really reducing the cost down of the day-to-day costs. And when you're borrowing a fair bit of money to do a fit out,
Yeah.
even just the interest that you're paying is a lot less than what you're saving. So yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. But I think good internet was important. I've worked in places where the computers are really slow, and if you're adding a few minutes to every console waiting for that spinning blue wheel of death to load up your page, like, it's you lose a lot of time, and that's, from a business owner's point of view, that costs you quite a bit of money. So I just wanted something that was going to work efficiently, and just that we don't have to think about, where we're just able to come in, use it. So I did quite a bit of research into the types of software that we could use, and became pretty clear that cloud-based software was the way to go. It's where the technology's going. It's where the money's being put into. So picking something in that regard was important. So we've gone with Ascend, and but also just just equipment as well that's available to us now, like heated anaesthetic circuits that can keep your patient warmer for longer, rather than hot water bottles and the risks that are associated with that. Like, there's lots of technology that makes our job easier, and has really come down a lot in price too. So it's achievable for most people starting a practice.
So thinking about the software that you're using, we talk about efficiency and future proofing. So digital forms, ways to communicate with the client, digital whiteboards, and using those sort of tools, etc. Are they being embedded into thinking about your systems and processes from day one? How are you going to utilize that with your team?
Yeah, so there's stuff we're getting in from day one. So it's like online appointments and those sorts of things, and yeah, we'll have iPads for treatment sheets and stuff like that as well. We've sort of got to prioritize different things, and it's amazing how much time you think you have to what you actually do have to do. So there's some things that we'll implement over time, and certainly the use of AI notes is something we'd like to implement in the next 6 months, I think. There's lots of programs out there that utilize that, and some come with the software, and others integrate well with them. So those sort of time-saving measures, I'd like to introduce early, because as you grow the team, it's going to be a lot easier if you're bringing someone in and this is just the system that's in place, and you show them how to use it, rather than, some people don't like change. One of the things I learned locuming is that change can be really good, because there's some practices that are a bit set in their ways, and there's some things that you could change that could really make the place more efficient. And it's a lot easier to bring someone in and say, this is how we do things, than it is to say to 15 people, okay, now we're changing across to this. So yes, certainly those sort of things you talked about, I'd like to get implemented pretty early on, because they can save a lot of time.
And I really like that you've got a roadmap of what the other opportunities are. I appreciate that there is a lot to start with, embedding those critical foundations and then clearly demonstrating that roadmap to your team. I think to your first point, when we first started speaking about people not knowing what's happening, knowing what's to come, so you're languaging that it's not a change, it's coming, I think is a really good way to phrase it as well from a leadership perspective. What is, thinking about that, one tool or feature every modern veterinary practice should have? So whether you think about reference, you're going to answer straight away. Go for it.
Yeah. I was going to say dental X-ray, I think, is the big thing. Like, there's still, I think most places have it now, but it's a sort of tool that just pays for itself really quickly. Like, the pathology you can find, and then you obviously you're finding extractions that you didn't think that needed to be done, and then there's costs that all these fees that can generate, and then there's also things that, like especially with cats that have resorptive lesions in their teeth, like you take an X-ray and realise there's no root there to remove. We don't have to spend half an hour digging around for something that's not there. That's right. So like we used to back in the day, but so that it's for me it's a no-brainer. It's just something that really helps with efficiency in practice. So but yeah, there's lots of different things that I think, but that's the main one that comes to mind. I think that just we need to get into practice.
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think it really helps also from our client communication perspective, confidence with teams, efficiency, staging. I agree. It's definitely a no-brainer. If you think about whether it is the process of developing the new practice, I imagine there is a lot of thoughts and process. I'd really like you to sort of step through for us sort of how long, or the from design, thinking about setting up that initial thought or seed that went into fruition next week, a little bit of an overview of what that looked like from a timeline perspective, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of what's required, how long things might take, and to give them some guidance might help people thinking about that. And then the second part of that is what the one part that you would do it again in a heartbeat. So thinking about that process, what's one part you just do that again in a heartbeat because it would make a difference or make a change?
So I think I've been off from my previous job for 12 months, so I probably needed most of that time to sort of think about things. So I think I probably underestimated how much time I would have if I was locuming at the same time, and how much this finding a site, I think, is the hardest part, finding somewhere where you're comfortable, and you need to sort of think about what that client experience is going to be. So one building might look great, but you need to think about how easy are they going to be able to park out the front or get their patient into the hospital. What support are you going to get from your landlord as well? Like, what's there already? Like, what are you going to have to rip out, and that's going to cost you money? Blank shells versus existing buildings. That one thing I found was that a lot of the quotes they couldn't commit to in an existing building because they just didn't know what they were going to find once they were in there. So I think from my point of view, the best thing I did was finding somewhere that was a bit of a blank space that I could make it the way I wanted to, and that had existing roofing, existing air conditioning, so that saved a lot of money, but at the same time was basically just a blank showroom, and I had a bit of a blank canvas to work with the way that I wanted. So I think that's probably the main thing in the journey that I think is important. And then just you probably need to make sure you're taking breaks in there as well, because you are busy. You've obviously got to work at the same time. Probably I don't know many vets that can just not work that have that money that they can do that. So be a bit realistic about how long things are going to take, and don't push yourself too hard, and don't give yourself too strict a timeline. I pushed mine out a little bit just because I knew I could work at the same time and have a bit of time to get things right. But I put blocks in there, especially around school holidays where I was home with the family, and I was big that I didn't want to go into this tired, which I don't think I am, because if things go well, it means you're going to be busy. So needs to be, you don't really want to come into it exhausted and then be burned out before you've really got to enjoy it. So they're the sort of things I thought was important along the journey in that 12 months.
I think that's actually a really valuable take home for all of us when working on a project, that we can often work so hard or invest so much or spend so much time. Then when it comes to us, releasing the project or doing it or opening it, you can have spent so much energy, you can't actually focus on growing it or developing it. And I think that alone could make a really big difference to those that are setting up. So really useful. Thanks, Lou. Thinking about that then, and it may sit that you already knew this, but lessons or things that you could share that you might do differently. So thinking about your journey over the 12 months, or even how long it took you to get to at 45, opening up what it is that's your passion project. What do you wish you knew or would do differently to save us time, or things you'd avoid?
I underestimated how long it would take to get IT stuff sorted,
Okay.
as in how much was involved in that process. So I was lucky I had some friends that were good with that to help me get that right.
Okay.
But I've still got a bit to do there to try and sort that out. So yeah, I wish I'd looked into that a bit more before I started. Like when I set a timeline of when I was going to work on things, and I sort of pushed that more towards the end, and then realised, oh, hang on, there's quite a bit of equipment and stuff that's involved. It's not just setting up a modem and plugging some computers in, and just I think just be prepared. There's going to be things that come up that you don't think about. Even if you've run a large hospital or worked in vet practice for a while, there's little things along the way. Like I'm renewing my first aid certificate on Saturday because we've sort of realised, oh, hang on, we don't have a first aid officer.
First aider, and you're open on Monday.
Yeah, that's right. So okay, I better renew that, and I didn't even realise it wasn't valid anymore. So this thing, and just little things like bins for the clinic. It's we're next door to a Domino's, and saw the bin there a few weeks ago. I thought, oh, actually, we're going to need a bin. Like there's little things, there's little things like that you just don't think about. So, but yeah, I think sort of in that sort of 12-month journey as well, I built a lot of relationships over the years, and the veterinary industry is still quite small. So I was glad that I had a lot of help with those things along the way. There's a lot of people that wanted to help me regardless of whether I was partnering with them or not. But there's a lot of people that just genuinely want to see vets go well, and so that was good. Whenever they said they'd freely offer advice, have you thought about this? What are you using for this? And you go, oh no, I never thought of that, and thank you for that along the way. So that was really helpful having all that. I think that when I've seen people leave jobs and sort of give the finger on the way out, and it's like it's a very small industry. There's everyone knows everyone. There's a lot of people who can genuinely help you. So it just makes fostering those relationships over the years has certainly benefited me in this process. So
we're very lucky to work in the industry. There's nothing like it, and I know I look at you and I remember high school, Luke, and it's incredible to see how much you've grown, your success, and how you are leading the way of what the future does look like. And you've mentored a lot of young veterinarians along the way who are now thriving, which it is incredible to see, and it must be something that it is rewarding for yourself as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great industry, and I think that it's certainly something I'm passionate about, making sure that people come into it and enjoy it. And I think there's a lot of good organisations now too, like Sophie's Legacy, and that have sort of really helped to raise the public awareness as well. So yeah, I think that it's good that's having an impact as well.
So I'll ask this sort of last one to bring us together. If someone was thinking about starting a clinic, so we've got, we're sitting here listening to pod thinking, okay, I've been toying with the idea, I've had this feeling, but I haven't moved forward. What are 1 to 3 or something that they should get really clear before moving forward? What's that fundamental piece that you should be really clear with before taking on this journey?
I think big thing to ask yourself is, do you still like being a vet? Because you're really locking yourself into that for a long period of time. And, if you get short staffed, which you will over the years, there's going to be things that come up. You're going to have to jump in and probably put quite a few hours on the floor. So you need to make sure that it's something that you're still passionate about, because that passion's going to have to drive you through that process. So I think that's important. And just think about what's your team going to look like. To think about, like I said at the start, what do you need to help cover what you can't do? How's the management team going to look? Do you want someone who oversees the whole process and you're on the floor doing things? Or like in my case, I'm quite fortunate that my wife's a bookkeeper, so she can handle payroll and accounts and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to.
You're very lucky.
Not having to learn how to do that. I can stick to what I'm good at. And also it means that the practice manager can not have to worry about that sort of stuff and can have her management time allocated, but at the same time then have more days where she's on the floor and teaching, because we'll have the spectrum of people from the experienced side of things to others that are just sort of entering the industry. So to be able to have people like that to train our new staff is going to be invaluable, I think. So
I think both of those are critically important, and really good for us to reflect on. What is your passion? Because your passion will drive you. Be passionate about you, because all of us will have some hurdles or hills or things we have to overcome, and you need that internal drive and love of the job. And the second is, what does the structure support team, where are your strengths and where do you need support? Because if you don't have those foundations from the beginning, it will put you under pressure. So really good advice.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I would like to really thank you for your time today, and best wishes. I'm genuinely excited. I can't wait to come and see the practice. I'm going to visit later in the year. If I could finish off just lastly, if you could recommend someone for us to have on the podcast thinking about the veterinary industry or things that might support you, who would you be, or what topic would it be?
I thought of a couple. One would be someone we both know in Rod, but you'd probably have to censor some of his stories, because I'm not sure if you get away with some of his stories these days. And the other would be Mags, who's the chief vet at Green Cross that I've worked with for a long time. She is someone who is very passionate about the industry as a whole and has helped countless people along the way. So I think
incredible, both incredible humans.
Yeah, so I think either of those would have a lot of great advice for people in the industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to seeing Coastal Vet Collective shine.
Terrific. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.